and welcome back to the Little State Big Voices podcast with myself, Shahidah, and my fabulous co-host, Tracey.
Welcome back, everyone.
So it has been a very interesting week. We had our first episode premiere on Martin Luther King Day, and both of us attended, MLK breakfasts. And how was yours? Unfortunately, we're both in Boston. We're very sorry. We have not been participating in Rhode Island like we want to 100% of the time. We'll say 50% of the time.
We're from Boston, so there's no shame in my game. I went to 2 MLK. So first of all, I'm proud of myself for going to any MLK breakfast because I went to 2 last week, both in Boston. One in Roxbury. Actually, both of them were in Roxbury. And I'm okay with that. Next year for Rhode Island.
Next year, Rhode Island has this. I went to the one at Seaport, and Governor Maura Healey was there. The mayor, Michelle Wu, was there. And there was a professor from Harvard who was the keynote speaker, and I cannot remember his name. And he was excellent. But Michelle Wu just really ate it up. I was so impressed by her fire because I really was not jubilant about her election, as if it matters to me because I don't live in Boston. But I wasn't jubilant about her election, but she spoke very well. She spoke with the fire that a lot of minorities need to have, especially when we're dealing with a city like Boston. And one of the things that she kept saying is like, she was tired. She was tired. She was tired. She was tired of being othered in the city that she was born and raised in. And just saying that she was tired is something, that resonates, especially with Black women. Because we're tired. We're tired of having to say the same things all the time, to teach you again and again why something is racist, to teach you again why you shouldn't do blackface, to teach you again why you shouldn't say the N-word. Tired, and she expressed that so eloquently. So I was very impressed by her. Ayanna Pressley was there as well, and I know you love her.
Yes, I do.
And she did basically kind of same vein, basically how tired she was, and they taught a lot about what they're doing to make changes in Boston. But one of the things, I'm going to let you speak about your breakfast. I'm sorry, is that Maura Healey spoke about them introducing African American studies to all the high schools across Boston.
And we need that, considering everything that's going on a national scale with, book banning and taking critical race theory out of classrooms. So that's going to be really important. And I hope the kids study. Parents, make sure your kids do their homework.
And yeah, study, but also understand your history. That's important, that each child should be taking that class. Right. Not just the Black kids,
exactly,
but across the board. But it's geared towards our kids, but I hope, I'm hoping that they get a lot out of it. That's very important.
It's the history of America. So it's American history, period. Like, that should just be, it should be in there regardless. But
have you ever taken a African American history class?
No, but
I
learned pretty extensively in some of the college courses. I took African American literature, not history, but
which is teaching in itself.
That touched on a lot of historical topics, and there were some historical books involved with that. What I would circle back and say about Michelle Wu is actually the first time I ever met her was at Ayanna Pressley's office in Hyde Park, Mass. I had no intentions of voting for her either. So I did see her and I was like, oh, okay. But she was actually, she seemed like she was.
Were you still living in Boston when she was elected?
I was still doing my back and forth thing. So I still had a Boston address and was still registered to vote in Boston.
Don't say that too loud, girl. No.
Big government, don't come for me. Anyway, but so I say all that to say Michelle was on her circuit because I went to an MLK breakfast at the Roxbury YMCA, and she was there as well. She spoke eloquently. It was really good, and they actually had some young people speak to from some of the local high schools, and they did an amazing job as well. So 2 MLK breakfasts. One was specifically geared toward elderly people in Roxbury, Mass., which was really beautiful. And I actually had a hand in preparing and hosting that event. So, which is amazing because I have not been to an MLK breakfast in decades.
No, me either. I think that's the first one in like 20 years. So, and I do hope to go to one in Rhode Island next year.
Yes.
And hopefully be just as inspired to create and be involved, because that's another thing that they all said was that, it only works if you work with it.
Correct.
And we do a lot of, I don't like this and I don't like that, but we're not working to really change it. And it's not just voting. So.
Yep, it's about that dream and actually not just making MLK this caricature, because it's almost kind of become that. We're still of the age group where we remember. So like, let's say when I was in middle school, MLK, if we think about it in context, in the 80s, when I was in middle school, elementary school, he had only been assassinated 20 years before that. Now when I think about 20 years ago, that's like yesterday. So now when I can put it into that context, I'm like, wow, that was still really fresh. And then MLK Junior Day I think that became official in like 86. Something like that.
It was in the 80s, yeah.
It was in the 80s.
86.
That was still pretty fresh. But as kids, we didn't have the context to understand the gravity of the situation. So we all grew up knowing it. MLK was hammered into us. But we didn't really... I think I'm now understanding how profound his legacy really is as an adult. So
and I think, too, how we were taught about MLK in school was so watered down. Because... I grew up thinking, he's a pacifist, or, the sit-ins, and, no, those speeches...
That was all propaganda.
Exactly.
To make him look clean enough and for the consumption of America.
That Republicans can, pretty much shape his legacy the way they wanted it, not really... focusing on his later speeches. He was really coming hard for him, where he was closer to Malcolm X than a lot of us would like to believe.
And they made that separation. I remember thinking for a really long time that Malcolm X was not a good man when I was younger. Yes.
See, and I was the opposite. I was thinking that MLK was not a good man because I felt like he was kneeling for white people, whereas Malcolm X was like, you burn my house down, I'm gonna burn your house down.
That's they were pitting those two against each other instead of showing them that these two together are part of what is good for the elevation of the black person in America. So it was kind of like, he's got guns and he's violent, he's this and that. And that was, and actually Malcolm kind of leaned into that until he did his pilgrimage and he became, a much more tolerant activist. When I say tolerant, I mean more accepting of, the bigger picture for all, especially when he started embracing Muslims of other ethnicities and things like that. So he did.
That on Hajj.
Yeah.
But he still kept.
Yeah, he kept it real.
He was going after, which is so crazy, Mitt Romney's dad.
He was like, you can't make these things up.
It's crazy,
people.
But that's very interesting. So let's leave Boston.
Yes, let's venture over to Boston's little cousin, Providence.
That's a good one. Little cousin Providence, because we had our State of the State by Governor McKee this week too, and I listened. I think this is the only second State of the State I've listened to. I wasn't wholly impressed, but I know that these things are pretty vague, and you have to highlight the best that the state has to offer. And I feel like, as a state, we are moving towards doing better. And I did like that he wants to fund these bonds for, homes, for building new homes.
Yes.
Which is incredibly important. Where are these homes going to be built? How affordable are they going to be? Those are questions that were not answered, but at least it's a step in the right direction. I liked what he said about, education. And as a grandmother now, so all of my kids are out of school, I did not realize that since the pandemic, how fragile the system has become, and absenteeism for children, or them even getting that. So I really do want to look more into that, and I know a few people that are working in that direction. I hope that to have them on the podcast. But what were your thoughts?
I mean, that was he spent a lot of time talking about young people. He particularly was really focused on Latinx community. I felt that he was speaking directly to Latinx community. And, I can get into some statistics in a little bit about how many Latinx people there are in the state of Rhode Island, just overall demographic information. But leaning back into education, that absenteeism, so I think it's just common sense. If you don't go to elementary school, if you don't go to middle school, if you don't go to high school, your chances of getting into college is like zilch, because you have to go, you have to learn, and you have to, you have to be able to graduate. And statistically speaking, there's that deficit, there's that gap between how many bachelor's degrees, associate's degrees, things like that. Now, high school, interestingly enough, high school graduate levels are on par for Rhode Island. But when you get to the college side of things, that's where you see the decline. But he did highlight some young people. I mean, some really young people. There was a kid that was like 7 years old.
And who wasn't going to school.
And Shahidah was like, sir, why are you not in school? Put this baby on the bus or walk him to
And that's a parent issue. But I always felt, too, like one of the main things that when we talk about education, one part that is missing is making sure the household is whole.
Yes.
Because if you don't have parents that are whole, they're not going to care whether or not their kids go to school. And I guess that's where the healthcare comes into it as well, because we really need to start giving these families foundations, and some of that foundation is mental health.
Right. And wholeness doesn't mean mother, father,
no,
mother, father. It means the mom. If you're a single mom, you are whole. Your mental health is stable.
Whoever is getting that
granny, whoever is in charge of that baby. So, I mean, the thing about it is that we don't know why this child was chronically late. I know his mom was there, though, in the audience. And what was not addressed is why. Why. That was not talked about, but I guess it wasn't
And even just highlighting it, it's like 7 years old. It's like, I have too many questions.
Right.
I mean, I understood the teenage girl.
Right.
Because there's so many things that could happen when when her mom sends her out to school.
As someone who played hooky constantly, still got my degree. But yeah, I definitely.
So I understood that. I did not understand that, and that's why
the young little boy.
That's where I feel like,
so that's the question: was it a transportation issue? Was it health? Was it what? Like why? Why are these kids not going to school? So they've incentivized it, right? They've given out certificates, and they've done things to incentivize these kids to go to school. So I think that's a big deal.
Else they have done, because if you're not going to school and you get a certificate,
maybe it's a sense of pride. I don't know. So my mother gave me a manila envelope the other day. I am a grown woman, decades old. And when I opened that manila envelope with all my little certificates from second grade, and they're in pristine condition, I was so proud. I was very proud.
And I get it to an extent. But if you're not going to school and, the incentive is a certificate, I don't know.
Yeah, no, there's got to be more. And I feel like there is more. There's probably some kind of food program or maybe some transportation thing. I don't know. That's probably something we need to explore more and find out more about exactly what they're doing. But I talked a little bit about him really leaning into the Latinx community. And so I was looking at some statistics. These are not the most up to date, but they're pretty current from a few years ago. And as far as the 4 New England states that we think of in general, not including Connecticut, but Rhode Island, Maine, Vermont, Mass, the percentage of Hispanic people who identify as Hispanic in this state are far larger than the other 3 states at 16.3% compared to Massachusetts at 12.4%. And I thought all the Spanish people lived in my neighborhood when I was growing up. I couldn't believe.
Really? Because I can actually agree with that statistic just from the numbers, because when I was growing up, it was only certain neighborhoods that were heavily Hispanic.
And we grew up in
You grew up in South End.
I grew up in the South End,
I grew up in Mattapan and Dorchester, and it wasn't very heavily populated. It wasn't until I went to Cathedral High School.
Oh, yes.
Which was in the South End, where I saw more of that population. And as far as being here, I've seen it from the minute I walked through the door. And
we got to keep in mind that Hispanics are mostly Latinx in, Central American countries, Latin countries. I guess Spain is in there, whatever. But, I think that that's a big number compared to other states. Maine and Vermont are 2% and less. But it's just important to know. Me. Yeah, it's important to know. This is a very, very integrated state with a good percentage of Latinx people. But I just wanted to kind of spotlight that. But anyway, overall, was I impressed? No, because it was my first time watching a State of the State. I don't like watching them. I don't like watching the State of the Union. I don't like watching the State of the State because I find them to be, for lack of a better word, bullshit. And I know they have to say, like you said, they have to say the best things. And I know there are some good fun facts and some really relevant topics in there, but they're just a little boring to me. I'd probably rather read the bullet points or get the little summarized version of it the following day. That's just me.
Well, the budget, I think he just presented the budget yesterday, which I did not get a chance to read on. But like you said, the State of the State is usually just the best news and what they want to do.
It's a pep rally.
I totally... And oh my God!
Which
at that pep
which
rally
needed to be more peppy.
And just looking at definitely more people of color in those chambers.
Absolutely, I saw a couple. I saw a few out there.
It was, but not nearly as representative as we would need it. One of the things I did, and people have been criticizing him on, was the 20K increase in people's pay. And
by what year, though? Let's put it into perspective.
Or even how you plan to do that.
Well, one of them was adding tech jobs to the state.
Right,
he did mention that. So here's the thing. I'm a Black woman who works in tech. 20,000. What do you say? 20,000.
20,000
by 2030.
Yeah.
20. That's not a lot of money. Okay, especially if you work in tech.
It's not keeping up with
inflation
of everything else.
It's not. It's not. So that, to me, that was a low bar.
It was.
And I feel like he maybe set the bar low because he plans to exceed that. Also, sir, are you going to be in office? Let's talk about that. Are we reelecting you? You're talking about what you're going to do in 2030. That's 6 years from now. You might not be here.
Yeah, I need to hear more about that, because when he was saying it, and it was mild applause too. It was like raunchous applause, like, oh my God.
Well, because it was
very mild, but I think a lot of it has to do with,
because 20,000 is not a lot of money. Now, if you said,
because it's not keeping up with anything,
it's not.
And again, I will definitely kind of look more into it, but. One of the statistics he did throw out was about young people here making more. I thought I took a note on it, and I'll have to go back to it. Oh, man.
Making more money, right?
Here in Rhode Island,
excuse me, y'all,
than other states.
I did remember him saying that. And that's all well and good, but I need more information about that. So, I mean, I think what we'll do is we'll keep an eye on it. We have plans to speak with some people who represent the state of Rhode Island in the future. So we're going to be talking to state representatives. We're going to be talking to people who work in housing, people who work in education, because we want to hear from the inside exactly what's going on. I mean, one of the things that, is important is this whole thing with cannabis in the industry. Rhode Island has got so many cannabis facilities. And then if you look at the disparities in arrest rates, for possession of marijuana before all of this was legal, it was striking. The charts are clearly indicative of the system being broken when it comes to justice in regard for marijuana, arrests for Black people. So now that it's legal, and we have drive-through cannabis facilities in Rhode Island, drive-through. You can get it like you get your McDonald's. So if you off the highway, off 95, there's one. They have a huge sign.
But you know what? And I've said this 1,000 times. I will never buy an edible from a place that is not owned by a minority.
Okay.
So I will go all the way to Brockton, Massachusetts, to a Black woman if I choose to do that. But no, I that's incredible, because remember Gina Raimondo's husband owned one in was it Fall River, a big one in Fall River, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
Leaving the money in the state of Massachusetts, he couldn't get out either, girl.
The stigma behind it, but that's a whole other podcast or whatever. But yeah, so
I went into one
incredible.
Being nosy one time because for those listening, people who know me, I'm not a smoker. I'm not really a consumer of cannabis. I'm interested in knowing about the industry, but I'm not really someone who indulges that much. But I wanted to be nosy, so I went into one, and it was like going to a clinic.
Really?
Like, it was very sterile. The one that I went to, don't get me to line. I don't remember the name of it. But when I went in, it was very secure. But it was like going to an office building, checking in for a doctor's appointment. I went in, I looked around a little bit. It was interesting.
I went into one in Pawtucket, and it was like going into a high-end jewelry store. It was beautiful.
I need to go over there because this one was like walking into almost like a spa. It was very sterile.
Yeah, but I was going in to be nosy too. But no, it was actually beautiful.
I'm gonna try. I need to see what's going on with this drive-through one. We need to pull up on them.
Nah, forget them anyway.
We can drive through. We don't have to buy anything.
Yeah, drive through. What you got?
I want to see if they have an intercom, like when you go order your coffee at Starbucks. Insane. Can you order in the app ahead? Like, I have so many questions.
But you have to be 18.
Yes.
So, you know what? That's crazy, because what's the legal drinking age? Is
21.
So you can be 18 and get edibles, and 21 to buy alcohol. That seems a little askewed.
Yeah.
No?
Listen, it's all about the Benjamins, baby. That's money.
I never even thought
You can
about
smoke
that.
cigarettes at 18, though.
Yeah, but eating edibles is like maybe having a glass of wine.
I wonder if there's any correlation with these absenteeisms.
Even though I will say that when you look at abuse on a level, the person is always drinking. So I'm not big on alcohol anyway, but I find it to be, I don't like the way a lot of people, especially men, act when they've had a lot of alcohol.
Certain alcohols can cause rage.
They get you don't see that.
And I don't mean to laugh at that. I'm just laughing at how it looks on some people.
It's bad. So
very
anyway.
Messy. Great for Instagram, bad for society. Okay, what do we got next?
All right, so we talked about the education, the housing bond, $100 million. Great.
I'd be interested to see the housing stuff too.
Yeah, I just want to know where
it's it's a little state. Rhode Island's a small state, but we have a lot of open.
Oh yeah,
space.
But you see a lot of old, torn down places being renovated, and then you see like a for lease or for sale sign going up, especially on Smith Street. I noticed a lot of different torn down houses in vacant lots being built up on. So that's good. I want to know where that money is coming from.
Yeah.
And how can I get some?
They're building a house on the
How can
corner
I
of my
build
street.
something
They're
else
building
too?
what I believe is an apartment complex at the top of my street. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out.
I wonder how big though, because that's a small
about
space.
3 or 4 stories, but I want to say it's
Okay.
probably going to be 6 units.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it's going to bring more people, more traffic to the neighborhood because I don't know where these people are going to park.
Okay.
But it'll be interesting.
Okay. So, well, the state of the state. Oh, on the good news though, I was very happy to hear that TF Green is one of the top 3 airports in the U.S.
Love
and
that airport.
Tourism in Rhode Island went up substantially here. So, I mean, that's very good news.
That is good news for the economy of Rhode Island. And so TF Green it's a small airport, but it's international and you can get anywhere. We actually went to Virginia from TF Green and it was like an hour flight. Did you know that?
No.
Yes, we were so surprised. We were going on vacation last year down to Virginia, and yeah, we flew in on Breeze. Excuse me, sorry, y'all. Breeze Airways. It was less than an hour.
Oh, I haven't flown internationally from TF Green, but whenever I go to TF Green, it's always a pleasant experience.
It's easy, and it's breezy. Okay. And let me tell you another thing about TF
and they
TF
built
Green.
it up nicely too over the last.
You
10
get in
years.
there. So I like to be crazy early to the airport. Like I'm that girl. I will arrive 3 hours early for a domestic flight because I'm not trying to miss my flight. I'm trying to go where I'm going. My daughter, on the other hand, she will get there at the closest possible cutoff time.
Oh no.
To boarding her plane. TF Green is the ideal airport for someone
her,
like that.
yeah.
Because you get in there, you know, no one's harassing you when you're trying to get out of your vehicle to unload your stuff. No one's harassing you when you're picking someone up from the airport. There's no statey out there. No disrespect to Logan Airport, but that's how it is. You know, you got to keep it moving at Logan.
They do have state troopers, but they're not as
They're
intrusive.
not bothering you.
No, yeah.
They're not bothering you. You get out of the car. You walk over to your little thing. There's hardly ever a line. You check in or whatever. The TSA is right there. Clear is also there. And once you get through airport security, your gate is at most a 5-minute walk, at most. You go to some airports, Logan's not that bad. You go to airports around the country, it can be a 20-minute walk to your gate. And they're bigger hubs. But.
Yeah, extreme, where you have to actually be taking one of those little golf carts.
Exactly. That's not a thing at TF Green.
Dallas is crazy.
But they have a Dunkin' in there. They have a couple of restaurants and they have a really beautiful lounge down on the lower level too. Okay. Very cute if you want to wait in style and have a cocktail.
I have never. Yeah, I do need to travel more out of TF Green. The only thing that stops me most of the time is like a $200 or $300 difference.
Oh yeah, I'll drive to Boston for that cheaper flight.
That is the only thing. So I don't fly out of there as much because I go to California quite a bit. So usually I am flying out of. But I love TF Green. That is like, I understand why they're top 3 in the U.S.
No, it's a good airport.
Well deserved, and like I said, the people who work there, I've never had like a bad encounter.
And if you want to get there, if you want to park your car, it's not an arm and a leg.
Oh my God, that is like the best part. Like, you're not paying a whole car loan just to park it for like 7 days.
That part. And if you don't want to drive, you can pull up literally into the train station that is in the airport. So you can pull in on the commuter rail. There's a direct stop.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yes. Okay, so here's the thing, right? I used to commute in to Boston for work. And on the way back, I would take, there was my stop, which is the Providence train station. But if you fall asleep, you'll end up at TF Green. That's all I have to say.
Oh, okay. So I think that's new, though.
If you fall asleep, it's not that new. It's
really?
the last 5 years, like when I was commuting into Brighton. I was that girl, tired after work, fell asleep, ended up at TF Green, embarrassed, just got back on the train and then rode back to Providence.
I
It's like being on the red line for those from Massachusetts, like being on the red line and getting on the Quincy train instead of the Braintree train. We've all done it, okay? Or no, the Ashmont and Braintree.
I fall asleep on public transportation all the time, but I always make my stop. I have never gone past my stop. It's like my body just says, "Hey,
No,
it's time to
I've
get
definitely
off,
done it. I've definitely gotten on the wrong red line before,
That's
and
funny.
I've definitely fallen asleep and gone to TF Green.
That's
All
hilarious.
good, but it can be done. So if you get a good flight and you want to come in from Boston and fly out of TF Green, you can take the commuter train straight in.
That's excellent. That's good to know.
Yep.
So the other big political thing this week was the Iowa caucus.
Yes.
So Trump won that, and they knew he was going to win that.
He knew he was going to win it.
Everybody knew.
He didn't even show up. He was like,
He was in Iowa.
He was in
gave a
Iowa.
speech.
He didn't show up for the Republican debate.
Debates. He didn't show up for any of them. He's not. Well, I'm not with him on that one.
That's very
Why
ballsy.
am I going to debate you when I already won it?
That's the cockiness that his
Exactly.
fan base or his support base likes. And I just want to put a little note here, a little asterisk, that I just was like talking all about Chris Christie and his campaign, and literally the next day after recording, he dropped out of the race. But it's whatever. I wasn't voting for
But
him.
he was in there
either way.
just to really kind of like shoot all the guns at Trump.
But
to
I'd
expose
rather
what he did.
him compared to what we have left, the backwash of Republican candidates
I mean, yeah. I mean,
that we're dealing with.
Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis. I mean,
My stomach is really I'm getting nauseous as
it's
you
not
say
even-
these names.
It's not even those three. My thing is they hyped up this caucus. These are the evangelical votes. They're godly people. You know, it's all about the morality of the country.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see in this man? Because there's nothing about morality that screams out, "Hey, it's me, Trump."
So, I've said this before, in no disrespect to anyone in Middle America. I have family in the Midwest, and they're great people. They are also Democrats. But a lot of people who are landlocked in the United States, so they're not near a coast. They're not near an international. Not that they're not near an international airport, because there are international airports in the Midwest too. But when you are in these isolated towns and cities, and you don't get out of your town, and you don't become worldly in a good way, you have a mindset of that you're going to follow the strongest male, I guess, or the strongest personality in your town or community, and those voices tend to lean right. They're not the big voices.
And that's fine.
They're the little voices.
You can lean right, but you cannot tell me you are a godly person. And listen to this man.
That's a tale as old as time.
Talk about what? Yeah, I get that, but you can't listen to this man who has been charged with what? What was it? The judge in the case said that he actually raped this woman.
I don't doubt it.
Right? So
I don't doubt it.
Look at this person and you look at the things he said. Even if you read your Bible a little, are you living your Bible and saying that
Has
this
this
is the
man ever
person?
been in a church?
No, because it probably would have burnt down. Because
That's
it's
what I'm
just
thinking.
like-
I just picture the whole thing just going up in flames. It was once he
but
set
even
foot in
taking
it.
Trump out of the equation, how do you say, and I always say this, white Christianity and black Christianity is very, very, very different.
Extremely.
Because white Christianity supported slavery wholeheartedly, to explain to slave masters how nasty they should treat slaves because they weren't human.
And from a couple of passages,
their
a couple of verses.
Christianity. So here we come today to Iowa, and these people are telling me that they're Christians. Not even dealing with Trump, dealing just you being Republican, me being Democrat. You should want the best for me like I want the best for you on your
But that
book.
religion is always weaponized. It's always weaponized against the weaker or the lesser minority, be that women, be that people of color.
Definitely people of color.
People with disabilities. That kind of
anything other.
It's always a way to weaponize. So it's been a tool of control. It continues to be a tool of control, and that's how they're getting so many people who shouldn't be voting for this man or these people, because they're like, oh, you're Latino, you're Catholic, you got to roll with us. You're African, you're Catholic, you don't believe in the death penalty, or you believe in the death penalty, but you don't believe in abortion. There's so many contradictions that I would love for them to be able to separate religion and politics, but there's supposed to be a separation of state and church, but there clearly isn't.
No, not anymore. I mean, and there's always been fringes of it, and and I can accept that to an extent, but it has gotten to the point now that it is, actually just very deplorable. So very deplorable.
I mean, I know you have some opinions about these folks that are left, after this caucus. In particular, Nikki Haley and
Nikki Haley and her racism is not a part of America. When you, ma'am, have changed your whole name to sound as Caucasian as it possibly can, Miss Nimrata.
So what is she
from?
So okay, when I look at her on television, I'm like, okay, this lady is going by Nikki Haley, but maybe she married.
She definitely married a
someone. She married a Haley. So I'm looking at her. Is she Greek? Is she
she's
Lebanese? Shahidah, stop it right now.
She's absolutely. I'm surprised. I'm not surprised that you didn't know that she was Indian, because she does not lean into that. Now, when she was running for governor,
so
of South
Native
Carolina,
American Indian or Indian from
India.
India.
Yes, her parents are immigrants.
Both parents.
Both. And she
has
stunned. Spoken about how her parents were discriminated when they come, but all of a sudden that's all gone.
I don't know any of this.
Yeah,
I don't know any of this. Now I need to Google.
She's leaning into the ignorance of the base, which is America is good. We've never been mean to any group of people. Anybody can come here. We love everyone.
Well, she's also New Hampshire. So
New Hampshire.
Is she New Hampshire? Where's she? Where's Nikki?
South Carolina.
Oh, okay, girl. See, this is what I'm saying. I don't know what was she in New Hampshire at one point?
No, she's in New Hampshire this week. They're all because the New Hampshire caucus is coming up.
Okay. I don't know why I thought she was
her whole big.
Okay, never mind, y'all. I told you. I don't be following these fools. Anyway.
No, her following her anyway. It's just, and Ron DeSantis, we can't even say enough.
South Carolina.
She was the governor of South Carolina. She is the one that took down the Confederate flag.
Okay.
Now, why'd you take down the Confederate flag if we are not a racist country? And I'm not saying
because she knew she was running for president. Probably
that was years ago, but she was getting a lot of pressure. Yeah. And she actually was one of the ones that kind of spearheaded too, getting rid of some of the statues, which was a big deal too.
I think that she's one to watch because she could be the one that goes against him, but her chances.
She's not going to go against him.
Well, the chance.
What do you mean, go against Donald Trump?
Yeah.
No, she's not going to do that.
So you think
Absolutely
it's going to be DeSantis?
Not. No.
What do you think?
Trump is going to take the whole thing.
I know, but as we start to wind down, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. As we start to wind. So what do you think he would bring her on as VP?
He said, "Oh, no. He said that she was not the right complexion."
No, the hell he didn't.
Yes.
When?
Oh God, I'll have to.
I didn't mean to scream in y'all's ear, but this is why I avoid this
because
stuff.
He's really mad at her because she did a couple of times come out and say some things that were strong against him, and he's had it in for her ever since.
Well, he hates women, so there's that.
100%.
But he also likes to win. So
but he's not gonna pick her. If anything, it's gonna be Stefanik from New York. She's been I mean, well, she's been a Trumpy from the
I
very
feel
beginning.
he's gonna do some kind of hat trick because
But I don't even feel like it's going to be a woman. But all the
we know it's not Mike Pence.
But you know what? I honestly think if he said Mike Pence might say yes.
He would be a goddamn fool, but go ahead.
That's how ballless the men are on that side.
He almost got that man killed while he was in a safe room.
Came out and kissed his butt.
He was in. So Mike Pence is from Indiana. So full circle back to the Midwest conversation. He's from Indiana. My family from Indiana was like, yeah, no, thank you. You know, just so you know, his own home state not feeling.
Oh no, everybody hated him.
Yeah,
you know, afterwards. I mean, which was crazy because the man literally called a hit on him, but you hate him for saying he called a hit on him.
And if he was any good in his role, he could have been up here trying to be president next. He will never. But anyway,
if he had showed any bit of manhood, yeah, and that's the problem. I'm like, I implore people to read The Third Reich, the rise and fall of the Third Reich, and it's about 800 pages. And I read it maybe 10 years ago, and it's one of those that I will pick up every now and then, not to read the whole thing because it's 800 pages, but just to get into the mindset of how a person like Hitler, who was a person like Trump, really shapes the minds or gets into the mind of these people to make them feel that they are God. Yeah. And it really, really breaks it down.
Because people gravitate toward what they consider to be leaders. And he has all the toxic traits of what America considers to be leadership.
And just like Hitler, Trump is none of what he espouses to be. He's a con man. And I mean, Hitler to an extent, but not on the, maybe because it wasn't social media, but not on the extent that Trump is. Trump is like he's like Barnum Bailey
woosah.
Con man.
I'm gonna woosah
I know
this one out because definitely get fired up, and we'll definitely, like we said, we'll be getting into more of these types of topics. But
because we need to start really paying attention. I'm gonna close it out on this. We just really need to start paying attention because 2024 is the November 2024 is coming up, and it'll be here before you know it.
And handle those local elections. Don't just focus on the national scene. Look at what's happening in your community. See who's making a difference or who can make a difference in your area.
So yeah, So it's been a wild week.
It has.
Not a wild, but a pretty good week. And again, this is our second episode, and just very proud of this podcast so far and the feedback that we have gotten.
The reception has been beautiful. Yes. I want to thank everyone who reached out in the comment section. So now we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Amazon Prime. Yes, so you can Amazon Music, sorry. So you can get a hold of us that way, and we're definitely, we're reading the comments, we're reading our DMs and our messages, and we want to invite you all to also contribute. If you want to talk to us, if you want to ask a question, or you want to be considered to be interviewed on our podcast, you can email us at littlestatebigvoices@gmail.com. And you can also see us on all social media at Little State Big Voices.
And we really want you to send in the emails because we're going to start our series on Rhode Island neighborhoods. So we want to speak to several different people on like why you love Pawtucket, why you love Providence, why you love North Providence, whatever town, city you live in, we definitely want to talk to you.
Or even if you're thinking about moving to Rhode Island,
that's even better.
we're here for you to give you information about, how to get started with a relocation, because I was reading that, or I saw that Massachusetts is the 7th state that people move away from. And typically when people move away from Massachusetts, they move to other states in New England. And Rhode Island is one of the states that people are coming to for the economy, for the housing market, for employment. Believe it or not, that was like the number
I know,
one reason.
I was surprised by that too.
So
the jobs are coming.
the jobs are here. They're coming. They're here, and tech jobs are coming. So there's that.
Yeah. So till next week, enjoy your week, and we hope to see you very soon. And what's our social medias?
Our social media, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're also on TikTok.
Okay. Well, enjoy your week, and I'll see you next Monday.
Next Monday.